Hello everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. So the webinar today is going to be focusing on Cisco Umbrella, and we're pleased to be joined by Chris Frost, who is a systems engineer for Cisco Cloud Security. So Chris is going to be presenting the webinar for you all today and also doing a demo at the end.
Yeah, thank you for joining the webinar today. Today I'll be talking about Cisco Umbrella. And, whether you're familiar with Cisco Umbrella or not, hopefully you'll pick up a few things here. It's actually quite a simple product, I think, to really kind of fundamentally understand. But just to get a little bit of background before I go into, talking about, why we have Cisco Umbrella and really the problems that it looks to solve, and then go into a demo. Really, as most people are aware, we kind of live in a hybrid world now where it used to be that you would kind of a hub and spoke, you'd funnel all of your traffic back to a central location, you had branch offices, but today it's decentralized. Internet's cheaper, direct internet access for remote sites, roaming users. Applications are actually hosted in the cloud, and there's still things that need to come back to the network, right? But we're moving to this hybrid world where, especially with the integration of 5G and even with 4G today, it's becoming a decentralized kind of network. In some of the things that it leaves open, which I'll talk about in the next slide, there's really some security gaps, some visibility. How do you protect users when they're not connected to the VPN? And we did a study a little while ago, and we found that 82% of people admitted to not using the VPN. And I know I'm guilty of that. At Cisco, there's very few apps that we need to actually use the VPN for. So I only use the VPN when I need to access certain things. Other than that, I don't use it. So what that can create a gap in is security policy, right? You build up a fortress when you VPN back into kind of the castle. But when we're not connecting to it, how do we protect those endpoints? So the security challenges that we face as the perimeter is eroding and people are working remote or branch offices are not connecting back are really around protection. How do we make sure that we're enforcing a security policy, whether that be phishing, malware, ransomware? Those are some of the big things there. But also, how do we get visibility into it? We may not even have visibility into it, and we'll talk about some of the things that Umbrella opens up as we enable it for a network. It gives you great visibility. And one of the things in terms of visibility is because we're moving to this hybrid world where a lot of apps are hosted on the internet, it creates this shadow IT type of, whether you're familiar with that term or not, it creates this gap in visibility of what applications people are utilizing within your environment. So whether that be Box, Dropbox, Office 365, or the tens of thousands of other applications that are out there, IT teams are having a hard time understanding what the applications users are utilizing. And then on top of that, being able to control what type of applications are in there. So this is really where Umbrella comes in. And if you guys are familiar with Umbrella, you'll know that it was originally OpenDNS. It's still very much OpenDNS, but OpenDNS was acquired by Cisco 4+ years ago, and we've built a lot on top of that. And Umbrella is really unique and pretty neat, and it's built, the platform itself is built into the foundation of the internet. We utilize DNS, which is most people refer to it as the phone book of the internet. So you don't have to add anything extra to your network. You don't have to add any software. It's simply just pointing your DNS to Cisco Umbrella, and we can provide visibility and enforcement. We can even provide off-network coverage into that. So pretty neat platform. It is, by far the easiest security product that you'll ever deploy. And I know this sounds markety, but it's one of the only products that can actually speed up your network because we've built a really robust DNS service, a security service on top of a really robust DNS service. And so next to Google, we're one of the largest global DNS providers in the world. So where does Umbrella fit? How does it work? We'll get into that in a little bit more detail, just to shine a little bit of light. We really view it as an added layer. And since we're utilizing DNS, we're port and protocol agnostic. So no matter what the location is, where the device is, as long as you're utilizing our DNS, we can enact like a block. So if there is a request going to a malicious site, instead of returning the IP address for that site, we return the IP address for a block page. Your device never connects to it. And it really complements any security stack that you have and really provides a global perspective. So one of the things that Cisco and a lot of our customers utilize is when users are not connected to the VPN, we're able to enable the Umbrella roving module, which just sends your DNS to us. We can provide visibility and enforcement. And this just gives you an idea of all the things and the visibility that we can see within your environment. So again, just taking the 5 minutes to point your DNS to us, we're able to provide visibility into all of your DNS traffic, whether that be a roaming or an iOS device, a Mac device, a Windows device, an IoT device. We can provide visibility on that because we're working at the DNS layer. And I talked a little bit about this before, but we're built into the foundation of the internet, and this is kind of a simplified way of thinking about it. But every single time a DNS request comes in, we check to look and see if it's a safe request. If it's a safe request, we return the correct IP. If it's a malicious request or a block request for content, we would return an IP for a block page. And then we have a riskier unknown state. And with the unknown state, we can actually funnel it through our proxy, our cloud-hosted proxy, to do a further set of inspection on the domain to see if it's risky. And this is really unique and kind of the bread and butter of what makes Umbrella unique. There's a lot of products out there that have kind of a tick mark of doing DNS-based security, but really it's just a tick mark. And our threat intelligence is pretty unique in that we're, again, one of the largest global DNS providers in the world. We see traffic from all over the world, pretty much any country that has internet. We work on the enterprise side, all the way down and everything in between to my grandmother utilizing the service and a free home service. So that allows us to get a pretty big bird's eye view or high bird's eye view of what's going on in the internet. And with that information, we're able to use statistical models to decide what is malicious or not. So everything is in real time. Every single time you make a request into Cisco Umbrella, we're checking a variety of different things to see if the disposition of a domain is malicious or not. And that translates to, is this domain associated with a phishing attack? Is this domain part of some ransomware campaign? Is this part of cryptojacking? And there's a whole variety of different things that we look at. But we do this all on our end. We don't rely on feeds. Feeds are kind of a necessary model, but feeds that you ingest into a system are kind of dated. And the reason is somebody has to get hit with something, somebody has to reverse engineer that, figure out those destinations, and then put it in the list. We're actually checking to see a variety of different things on, where's that domain live, who's talking to that domain, what's the traffic patterns of that domain, does Cisco as a whole know anything else about that domain? So we do some complicated things on the back end, but the neat thing about Umbrella is this is all automated. And this just talks about our intelligence, the overarching Cisco Talos team, which is our overarching security research team, helps and feeds and curates some of the things that we have in Umbrella, as well as our own security research team who builds some of these statistical models to automate a lot of our blocking. And one of the neat things too that we're pretty proud about is our false positive rate. It's extremely low. So it's an easy product to set up. It blocks quite a bit, gets rid of a lot of those low hanging fruit, and the false positive rate is pretty neat too as well in terms of how low it is. So what I'd like to do now is just switch over to a demo and really walk through the product. I know going through those slides was a little quick, but I think I like to spend, as an engineer myself, I like to spend a little bit more time in the dashboard. I think it will become a little bit more clear on what the product is and what it does. So let me go ahead and switch over to my browser. One second. All right. And it looks like everyone can see the screen here. So when we keep going, please stop me if you cannot see it. But Umbrella, I think of it providing two different things. It provides visibility, which we'll talk about in a second, and then it also provides enforcement. So if we look at Umbrella and just pointing your DNS to us, again, it's port protocol agnostic. You're already using DNS today, so you're just switching to where it would go. We can instantly provide visibility into all of your DNS traffic. We can filter out by security, our big security categories. So, how much of your traffic is malicious in terms of phishing, crypto mining, malware. These are big 4 categories. We can look at your applications that are within your environment. And so we can look, most of our customers don't realize that, they have over 1,000 applications in their environment. And then of those 1,000 applications, or in this case, in this demo environment, 3,200, which ones are actually ones that I care about or worry about? And we have a pretty unique way of looking and categorizing things from very risky to low risk. And you can decide what you want to block, or it may be that you just want visibility into that. Underneath that, we can then pull in our most blocked requests by identity or destination. Now, identity can be really anything that we integrate with. So, at the very heart of deployment, it would be forwarding a recursive DNS to us and then registering the public IP. We have a roaming client, which works on Mac, Windows, iOS devices, and Chromebooks. With that, we can get some off-network coverage. We can get also that attribution of the username or the host name of the device itself. We can also integrate in with Cisco routers and a variety of different types of deployments. Fundamentally, it's still the same thing. No matter what the deployment is, it's just it's getting your DNS to us. The way we do it might be different from a different device. So that's just a high-level overview of really what one of the reports is. What I'd like to dive into now is talking about policies. And I don't want to bore anybody with policy creation, but I think you'll kind of get an idea of what you can utilize with Umbrella in the policy section here. So policies it's a hierarchy in our system, so it's a first in, first out approach. But you can have a different policy for a network. You can have a different policy for an AD user or group or roaming device. It just depends. In terms of security, most organizations are going to leave security the same. It's going to be a blanket policy. You'll find that this policy system is really easy to set up, and I'm going to go through it fairly quickly so I can get to some of the other reports. But the policy is a choose your own adventure policy. You basically select what you want to do with this policy, and it will walk you through and guide you through setting that up. This is the bread and butter of what we do, is the security settings. So by default, we turn on malware, command and control, and callbacks and phishing attacks. Some of the other things that are pretty unique to us is a category called newly seen domains, and also crypto mining. So newly seen domains, that category, which you can turn on to enforce, or you can do kind of an audit only mode. Newly seen domains is going to, if you're blocking it, it will block that domain if we've never seen that domain before in our pretty big database. So it's not necessarily a newly registered domain, it's a domain that we've just never seen before. And from, for our really risk averse customers, I think of financial institutions and things of that nature, they want to have more control over that. And most targeted attacks are going to be on infrastructures people have never seen before. So this can mitigate some of the risk there by enabling the blocking of newly seen domains. And what happens is we put it in kind of a hold until we have a conviction on it, or we deem it to be not malicious. And that usually takes about 24 hours. Crypto mining is something that we added within the last year, and that really will block sites known to host basically crypto pools, or sites that are compromised running malicious scripts that are using crypto mining. And if you're not familiar with crypto mining is really a way of validating these transactions using compute resource to earn. If you do this, you earn money. And so what we're seeing a lot with our customers is, instead of infecting you, if you go to a site that is compromised, instead of infecting you with a site that might have ransomware, it actually can be more lucrative to infect you with something that is mining cryptocurrency, using your resources, your bandwidth, your GPU to do that. And so one of the things that we can do is we can block those categories. So another thing that we can do is we can integrate in with different services too as well. So if you have any threat feeds and you want to pump them into Cisco Umbrella, we're certainly able to do that. One of the benefits of Umbrella, and if you're familiar with the OpenDNS service, is we can do content filtering. So in addition to doing security, we can block content, and whether that be off network with our roaming client or on-prem, we can do that. And we do that at the DNS layer. So we don't have to do SSL decrypts. There's a lot of things that there's not really any high overhead with that. You don't have to have any machines or anything with that to do it. So we find a lot of our customers will utilize that if there's any policy or regulation that you need to apply. Application control is something we can also do too as well, where we can actually block specific applications. If you wanted to, maybe your environment only uses OneDrive, that's your sanction application, and you want to block other types of cloud services, you can certainly do that with Umbrella. And you'll see that I'm going through this, fairly quickly. I want to get to some of the reporting, but again, we are opening this up to a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer them. We can apply a destination list. So if you have a long list of feeds that you want to block, or if there's just a site that you never want it to be blocked, you can certainly apply that within the allow list or the block list. Now, file analysis is really along the lines, I had touched on it just a little bit, but for unknown sites, which actually would be a new domain, we don't know if it's malicious or not. In that case, instead of blocking that site, what we can do is we can funnel it through our cloud-hosted proxy. And without really getting into too much of the detail, we can basically funnel to that site, and we can inspect the files that come across that to see if they're malicious. We check our AMP database to see if that's malicious, and if it matches a signature, then we go ahead and stop that file. And this is a way to alleviate a lot of your risk to these unknown sites. Now, a majority of the malicious content that we would be blocking is going to be, 99% of it is going to be at the DNS layer. But not all sites are inherently bad, and not all sites are inherently good, right? There's just sections of sites that are bad, and that's really where this file analysis comes in. Block pages, you can configure block pages to look differently. So a block page would look something like this, where it would tell your user you're blocked due to XYZ policy. You can even have your own logo, you can have your own verbiage, you can really customize this policy to educate your users. And that's really in the heart of it, what a policy would look like. I really encourage everyone to, work with Byte software we can set up a trial and an audit only mode, where we can set this policy into not enforce anything, and we can provide visibility into it. And we can say, hey, this is actually what we would have stopped or what we found in your environment. All right, so as I was saying, Umbrella provides two big major things. We provide enforcement, which we just talked about, and then visibility. And now I want to go ahead and pivot over to the visibility section, just to show you some of the reporting that we can provide. And we have a bunch of different reports. I won't go through every single one of them. I encourage you to work with us if you want to look at some of this. But in the core reports or any of the data, if you're utilizing a SIM, I'm not sure if anybody out there is, but a log management, all of these reports can be exported into an S3 bucket and then integrated into a log management system. We can do scheduled reports. So a lot of these reports you don't have to necessarily access in the dashboard, but they're there for your consumption. So looking at some of our reports, one of my favorite reports, while not the prettiest report, it's just the raw numbers. It's very similar to the report that we looked at in the very beginning where that overview is. But as soon as you start pointing your DNS to us, we can actually start looking at every single DNS query that's hitting Cisco Umbrella, and we can categorically put those DNS queries into security categories. So I can say, 1% of your total traffic, all of your DNS traffic is malicious, and it falls into these specific categories. So effectively, this can say, what is Umbrella doing for me? And we can look here and see that, hey, in the last 24 hours, we've seen 11 blocked phishing DNS queries. If I click on this 11 here, it brings me into a report called the Security Activity Report. The Security Activity Report will then pull up basically the domains and the identities associated with that and when that happened. So if we look here, we see in the last 24 hours, we have a few different identities that have reached out to deemed phishing sites. We get the identity, the destination, the external IP, the category that we have, and the date of the incident. So it's pretty neat here. I can actually pivot into here. I'll do this in a little bit to look at this specific identity, and we call that an identity lens to get a bunch of different information. I can also click on the destination. All of our reports you can pivot into and around if you want to look at this. And as I'm talking about this reports too, the reports, one of the things to think about too is Umbrella it's kind of designed to, you can use it as much as you want to in the reporting field or not. At the end of the day, we're looking at these phishing attacks. We'll look at crypto mining. But at the end of the day, we're still not allowing those destinations to go through. So it can really be a set it and forget it type of solution where you can get your daily scheduled reports, look at things when maybe you have high command and control and you need to track something down. But at the end of the day, it's never something you have to manage or really look at every single day. We realize people wear many hats, right? And so it can be cumbersome to have to have another tool to look at that. So at the end of the day, we're not allowing this to go through. But if you wanted to figure out what are all the phishing requests that we've seen in the environment, it's easy for us to do. And just a little bit on the activity search. The activity search, this report here, which is one of the reports that we've drilled into. The activity search is really a way for you to look at your raw DNS data or anything that's gone through the proxy. So on the left-hand side, it's pretty self-explanatory. We can filter by different identity types or categories, basically anything, a domain, an IP, a URL. If I want to search my database for that, I can query that and that would pull up anything there. So let's go ahead and drill in on one of the destinations here. Now, I don't know too much about this site, but we'll go ahead and pick on it. And this is called, I just pivoted into the destination lens. And the destination lens, what it's going to do, I'll go ahead and go back 30 days here. The destination lens is looking at that specific destination. It will tell you the trend over time in terms of how we've seen this request. The orange is blocked. So we don't see any allowed. If there's a policy change, we might see something allowed. We can look at our global percentage of the traffic here. So in this case, in our demo environment, our requests to the domain are 8% of the world's global DNS traffic, at least on June 8th it was. So that's actually quite high percentage. And why would you want to know the global traffic? Well, if something's targeted, you might want to know what your percentage of the traffic is, what Cisco is seeing. So it's just kind of a neat bit of information to look at. We can then look at every single identity that's touched that destination. These are all roaming clients, so the little agents that we have that you can deploy. And we have an integration with Cisco AnyConnect, by the way. We're a standalone version. And when I say agent, it's really just a 5 meg file that sits on your machine and forwards the recursive DNS traffic to us. So it's not cumbersome at all, but this is what we're looking at that's communicating to that destination. And then we can look at the network traffic to that destination. I can even pick on one of these identities here, one of the roaming clients, and it brings me into the identity-based lens. And then I can look at all of the traffic for that specific client. I can look at the destinations and the top categories for that client. All right, moving on to some of the other reports here are kind of self-explanatory, so I won't go into top domains in your environment, top categories, top identities. But one of the last reports that I wanted to dive into before we start to wrap things up here is the application discovery report. And this is a new report that we've built into Umbrella within the last 8 months. And this is really a shadow IT report. You traditionally see this in a CASB type product, which is a cloud access security broker. But since we're looking at all of the DNS requests, we can actually effectively tell you every single cloud application that's being utilized in your environment. So this is a slight departure from looking at things just from a malware kind of control perspective. This is just giving you visibility into what people are utilizing within your environment. And how to break this down is, as soon as you start pointing DNS traffic to us, we can effectively tell you all the cloud applications that are being utilized. So in this environment, we've seen over 3,000 applications. We have some flagged categories here that kind of unanimously across most of our customers, they want to know if people are utilizing. And then we also have flagged applications, which I'll talk about how we get to those categories in a second. And then we can break down your traffic. These are just kind of high-level reports of breaking down your DNS traffic. What types of applications are we seeing? Where are we seeing the risk? So let's pick on one. We'll pick on anonymizers here. So it's a flagged category within the dashboard. I can click on View Details, and this is going to tell me all the applications that are categorized as anonymizers. Anonymizers can be used to get around content filtering. They can be used to get around security. Generally agreed that these are not great to have in your environment. Most people would want them to block. Now, we can look at it this way. So the idea here is that you can approve applications or not approve them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're blocked, but you can work down this and say, hey, I only want to know things that are new in my environment. But I can look at these and say, from this application here, I can say this is the vendor. These are the number of identities. If I actually click on this, it would tell me all the identities that are making the request, so I can actually get down to the user if I needed to. And then ultimately, if I wanted to, and I can actually edit the control here to block these applications. So if I pick on ExpressVPN here and click on that application, it actually gives me a whole variety of mix of detail. It tells me, what type of application this is, when it was first detected, when it was last detected. I can see all the identities that have actually made requests to this particular identity or service. And I can also look at the risk details here. And this is pretty unique to us in that we will evaluate the application. So this is really in the context of approving applications or not approving applications within your environment. So what is the business risk? Is this a corporate application? What is the web saying about this application? So we pull in a feed from Cisco Talos, our overarching security team at Cisco. What is their financial viability? For this one, we don't have much data on, but we pull in a Dun & Bradstreet saying that they're scored. So what's the likelihood of an application or a business going out of business? So you may not want to invest or utilize services that have a low risk rating. What's the usage risk? You would traditionally kind of see, most people are accustomed to proxies where you see bandwidth or how much traffic is going to that site. We look at it a little bit different. We look at the DNS request. So in this particular case, we've only seen 45 DNS queries in the last 30 days. So not a whole lot of data going to it. And then vendor compliance. So does this application or this business have any certifications? I might not want to invest or utilize a service that doesn't have any type of vendor compliance or regulation around that. So that's just one that I picked on just to show you an example of what we can provide. It's pretty robust in terms of what we can provide. This is something that comes with the Cisco Umbrella platform. And with that, I'd like to really open it up and hand it back over. This kind of wraps up the demo and the presentation. But again, happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Even if we're not able to address them on the call today, happy to follow up with you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Chris. So if you do have any questions at all, there is a panel just on the right-hand side. And if you click on the questions tab, you can pop a question in there. So I'll just wait to see if any have come through.
one of the questions that I get asked quite a bit is where, and I went through this section a little quickly, is like, where does Cisco Umbrella fit with my security stack, with my firewall? Does my firewall do something like this, or I already have a proxy? And really, Umbrella is, you can think of it as kind of an added layer, in that we're the first hop on the internet. So even if you have a firewall that maybe is doing it at, if you know your layer 0 to the OSI model, that's blocking things at layer 7, because we're the first hop onto the internet and we can block things. If you're going to a malicious site, we can block it there. Then it takes a lot of the load off of your appliances. So, and you also want to think about it from a strategic point of view too, as well, and that defense in depth, right? You don't have one security solution that's going to stop everything. In fact, none of them will stop everything, right? But you hope to have enough layers in there and to improve your time to detection, or at least block the low-hanging fruit, so you can focus on the more serious things in there. But we complement other products, and even with proxy solutions out there, we find that some customers, proxy has been around for a long time, but customers augment their proxies today with a DNS-based solution, because you don't have to do things like SSL inspection. You don't have to, it's kind of low overhead, and scalability is quite easy. But we've also find customers that need that granular control that you might get with something like a proxy solution, and they can use us in conjunction with that.
Chris, hi, it's Trevor at Bytes. I just had a quick question. Do you know if there's any sort of around a sort of where the customer can have a free trial? Is there anything at the moment that's on the books at Cisco whereby they can have a 14, 21-day period whereby they can sort of take it away, have a play with it, and sort of see where they are with it and see if it's something that will work for them?
Yeah, absolutely. We offer 14-day free trials. We have a sign-up site just on umbrella.com if you want to play around with it. I would encourage you to work with Bytes to get that set up, and we can definitely work with you to get that. But yeah, it's a very easy process. All we need is your email, and then you would just point your DNS traffic to us. So for any technical people that are on the call, what we mean by pointing your DNS to us is just on your domain controller or your endpoint device, you would just change your forwarders to our two Anycast IP addresses. We would register your public IP, and then within a matter of minutes, we would start to get reporting in on that. And I think the product becomes a lot more exciting when you can actually see some of your own data that you're looking at. So.
Thanks, Chris. And if you are interested in a free trial, do pop that in the feedback form and we'll get back to you. There's another question here. It says, can this be deployed in an ISP's network as a standalone?
So in an ISP's network, so we do have, there's 2 points to that question. I'm going to interpreting the question a little bit here. So if you're subscribing to an ISP's network and they're utilizing their DNS service, absolutely, you just change your forwarders to us. And actually, we see for the typical setup, most of our people organizations utilizing our service are pointing to their ISP, or Google, or whatever the other few vendors that are out there. You just point to ours, so no issue there. In terms of ISPs, we do have services out there that can work with ISPs if you are an ISP provider. Happy to. That's kind of a different discussion, but yeah, we can work with ISPs too as well.
Thanks, Chris. Sorry, Chris, just got one more question for you. A question that I've been asked around recently is around the end-of-life UCS equipment, and obviously migrating over to the Umbrella. I mean, is that something that you could kind of give us a bit of an insight about around the UCS sort of side of things and how it's going to kind of merge or migrate, or how easy it is to migrate into the Umbrella market?
Are you in UCS? Are you referring to CWS?
Sorry, CWS. Apologies. Sorry. So I've written down UCS. CWS.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. No worries. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely speak about that. Yeah. So we So, please work with us if in Bytes. We're happy to help migrate you over. Now, CWS is a traditional full cloud proxy, and Umbrella is utilizing DNS, right? So there is why we see a lot of our customers migrating over to that for various reasons. It is kind of an apples and oranges product where there is some overlap there. So I guess in short, a lot of our customers, it's an easy transition over to it. Depending on how you're utilizing CWS, if you're utilizing it for content filtering, we can help you out with Umbrella. If you're utilizing it for security, we can do that too as well. So it just really depends. We are also in the very early stages, and this is kind of for another discussion, but we are building out something. Umbrella is becoming and fitting into this thing called a secure internet gateway, which is a product market category, and we will be adding more capabilities into Cisco Umbrella, which allow you to get granular controls, which is pretty exciting. So, in short, yes, we can easily transition you over to Umbrella. It is kind of a case by case by each organization, kind of how you're utilizing that service. But please reach out to us, and we're happy to help you there.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think that's all the questions from today's webinar. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to join the webinar today. I hope you found it useful. And thank you, Chris, for presenting as well. As mentioned at the beginning, I will send you all a link to the webinar recording this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And there is also a feedback form at the end. So if you would like to, if you're interested in the free trial or would like any further information, please do pop that in there and we'll get back to you. Okay, so thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day today. Thank you.